Natural history films have a general pattern. This one is about frogs, but it follows the general pattern. Frogs are in trouble. Lots of frogs are dying, and it's too bad. Humans, because of how we act and what we do, are a problem. Will we change our ways? Probably not. We should for humans and for frogs. There are way too many people. 6.7 billion humans are on the earth now, and we consume way too much, and our numbers are continuing to grow. What we do influences not only our life, but the lives of lots of other creatures, including frogs. One guy in Utah had 5 wives, 146 grandchildren, and was proud of the fact. He was on the cover of National Geographic as a human interest story, when he should have been tried for crimes against the planet. I'm gonna die. We're all gonna die. You're gonna die. Some people die young. Some have good genes, exercise, don't overeat, and are lucky and live to the ripe old age of 91. Before we die, species will go extinct. Extinctions are happening much faster than at any time in the history of the Earth. We can slow the loss by changing our consumption and the number of children we have. Often our changes are subtle and even pretty. We make roads, drive cars, and smash frogs. But hey, we have to get to work. It's death for frogs by 1,000 cuts, or one big tire. We change the landscape to grow food or to raise sheep. The landscapes are pretty, and we like them. But these changes can harm frogs. We live with cats and dogs and don't think much about how they affect and harm frogs. Not only do they eat them sometimes, but the poo they leave is loaded with nutrients. We spray chemicals that can harm humans and do harm frogs. We don't like weeds. What are you spraying?
Tui, weed spray. Kill off the weeds.
Where does the dog do pesticides and herbicide go? The pitter-patter of rain gently washes the pesticides, herbicides, and nutrients off the vegetation, drip by drip, drop by drop. Nutrients, oil, scat, toxins drip into our waterways. Water flows downhill. It may drip slowly or flow rapidly. Water pools in eaves of our houses, and the water drips and flows, and it ends up in puddles and rivers, lakes, ponds, where frogs live. If the water isn't pure, it's a problem for the frogs. Frogs breathe through their moist skin. Their skin takes in oxygen and any toxin in the water. If the toxin doesn't kill them, it can kill or deform their young, or it can break down their immune system and make them sensitive to infection or fungus. Pollutants are absorbed into the skin, and they act as chemical stressors. Nearly 1/3 of the world's amphibians are threatened with extinction. 23 amphibians have already gone extinct. 3 species of frogs in New Zealand are now extinct, and many are really living in restricted distributions. The southern bell frog is the largest frog in New Zealand. Female can lay from 3,000 to 10,000 eggs. Dr. Bishop knows the importance of frogs.
Really important. They're the first animals that use airborne sound to communicate, so it's their calls that we hear, and they're just really important. They eat all the little bugs that bug them, and they feed all the higher vertebrates like snakes and mammals and birds and things like that, so they play a really important role in the food chain.
Labs have to be kept clean, and it's a lot of work to store frogs and keep them safe. The Maud Island frog male carries offspring on his back, while the Stetler's frog is more aquatic than any of the other species of frogs in New Zealand. They're sexually dimorphic, and Sarah Hebert is taking care of 6 species of New Zealand.
3 species of native frogs in here, which we're quite lucky to have.
Out of 6,240 species of frogs, New Zealand's Archie's frog is the most evolutionary distinct.
The most evolutionary distinct and endangered frog. Again, we're pretty lucky to have them.
The frogs are little, but they're certainly stunning.
It's really bad fungus, basically, which has been spread around the world and has been implicated in global frog decline. So we need to know what kind of impact it's going to have on our native frogs in New Zealand in order to be able to devise ways to manage it and ways to manage its spread.
Scientists around the world are studying chytrid fungus because it's causing such a problem for frogs. Lots of species have already gone extinct. Scientists are trying to understand how chytrid fungus kills frogs and what we can do to prevent their death from this fungus. But frogs are amazing creatures. They can cool to minus 5.5 degrees Celsius before freezing. And they can survive several weeks being frozen. Their heart stops beating while frozen, but nevertheless, they survive. New Zealand frogs are highly unusual. They don't have external ears. They don't even have middle ears. They're voiceless, but they can get chytrid fungus. So it's important to know how to prevent chytrid fungus and to protect New Zealand frogs from the fungus.
Fortunately, these are our this is our kind of stock culture, and so we culture it once a month and keep it in the fridge. So here we can see this is a plate of chytrid fungus, which is basically like a really bizarre and not very well known group of fungi called the Chytridiomycetes. It's been devastating to the frog populations. We think it's been spread around the world from South Africa, but we've actually really no idea because they've recently found an even older, they've recently found Chytrid on an even older amphibian specimen from Japan. So it's been spread around the world really rapidly. We know that. We don't really know its origin. It's gotten everywhere. Some frogs are susceptible to it and have died, such as the Panamanian golden toad, which used to be quite numerous actually, but it seems to have been hit really hard by the chytrid fungus, as well as many other members of its genus, and so that's gone extinct. Also, there was this amazing gastric brooding frog from Australia that went extinct from chytrid fungus too. So basically it's a really big global problem, and what we're trying to do in our lab is to sort out whether our native frogs will be susceptible to it, also how it's going to be and possibly look at how it's transmitted throughout the environment.
Scientists are trying to prevent frog extinction. They're working around the world to understand what's happening to our amphibians. Archie's frog may be one of the most unusual, but we know that our survival depends on frogs. And what we do, we need to help frogs. What you do matters, and of course, save the frogs.
Thank you.